Hold on to your hats, America, because we've been here before. Donald Trump is once again the president-elect of the United States. The year is 2024, and the results are in. Trump has pulled off another victory, securing his second non-consecutive term. But this win comes with a familiar asterisk. Just like in 2016, Trump lost the popular vote. He rode a wave of electoral college votes straight back into the White House. It's a result that has left half the country celebrating and the other half scratching their heads, or maybe banging them against the wall. This election was a nail-biter, folks. The polls were tight, the rhetoric was heated, and the stakes were higher than ever. Trump's victory, while shocking to some, reveals a deep understanding of the electoral college system. It also highlights the enduring divisions in American society. It seems the country is just as polarized as it was 4 years ago, if not more so. This election was less about policy and more about identity, a referendum on Trump himself and what he represents. The big question now is, what happens next? With Trump back in the Oval Office, we can expect more of the same unpredictable, headline-grabbing leadership that defined his first term. Buckle up, America, because the next 4 years are going to be a wild ride. Trump's campaign strategy was a masterclass in targeted messaging and strategic resource allocation. They knew they couldn't win on popularity alone, so they focused on the electoral college battleground. Trump's team relentlessly hammered home their message in key swing states. They painted a picture of a nation in chaos under the current administration. They promised to restore law and order, bring back jobs, and put America first. This strategy resonated with voters who felt left behind by the economic recovery and disillusioned by the political establishment. Trump tapped into a vein of anger and frustration that ran deep, particularly in rural areas and former industrial heartlands. He promised to be their voice, their champion, their protector against the forces they believed were holding them back. It was a message that clearly resonated, as evidenced by the election results. Trump flipped several key states that had voted against him in 2020, proving that his brand of populism still holds sway over a significant portion of the electorate. His victory serves as a stark reminder that American politics is a game of inches, where every vote counts and even the most unconventional candidates can win by appealing to the right voters in the right places. This wasn't just a presidential election, it was a cultural clash. It was a battle for the soul of America, and both sides showed up in record numbers. Voter turnout was the highest it's been in decades. Americans from all walks of life felt like they had skin in the game. They stood in line for hours, braving bad weather and even longer lines at the polls, determined to make their voices heard. But this surge in civic engagement came with a side of anxiety. The country is more divided than ever, split down the middle by partisan lines. This division was palpable in the lead-up to the election. Families were torn apart, friendships were tested, and social media became a battleground for heated political debates. The election may be over, but the underlying tensions that fueled this divisive campaign are far from resolved. This deep polarization is perhaps the biggest challenge facing America today. It's a challenge that will require empathy, understanding, and a willingness to listen to those with whom we disagree. The question is, are we up to the task? Déjà vu, anyone? For the second time in recent history, the candidate who won the popular vote lost the presidency. Trump's victory has reignited the debate over the Electoral College. Critics argue that the system is outdated, undemocratic, and gives too much power to voters in a handful of swing states. They point to the fact that millions of Americans feel like their votes don't count because of where they live. The calls for reform are growing louder, with many demanding a system where the winner of the popular vote wins the presidency. They argue that this would be a more accurate reflection of the will of the people, and would ensure that every vote counts equally. However, any attempt at reform faces an uphill battle. Changing the Constitution is a complex and lengthy process, requiring a supermajority vote in both houses of Congress and ratification by a majority of states. Whether or not the Electoral College remains intact, one thing is clear: the debate over its legitimacy is far from over. This election has exposed the flaws in our democracy and sparked a conversation about how to create a more perfect union.